Hello everyone, my name is Christina Speciali. I am one of the meteorologists here at the National Weather Service office in Albany, New York. This is part 6 of our SKYWARN for the spring season training video. In this section, we'll discuss tropical systems, how you at home and you as our SKYWARN spotters can send reports to the National Weather Service and COCORAS. So for the 2024 hurricane season, the list shown here is the names that will be used to name any tropical cyclones that occur in the Atlantic Basin. Now, this list is created in conjunction with the World Meteorological Organization, and this is the list that we'll be using for any kind of tropical storms or hurricanes this season in the Atlantic Basin. There is a separate list that's used for the Pacific Basin. Now, with any tropical system, the main impacts for here in the Northeast include heavy rain and wind. Those are the two main entities that we worry about from any tropical system. Even if it's a system that becomes exotropical and it's only what we call a remnant tropical system, wind and heavy rain, especially the rain, those are the primary impacts that we can expect to reach our area and lead to some issues. In most recent memory, the systems that probably many of you remember are Ida from 2021. That's the system that led to widespread flooding and even quite a bit of tornadoes in the New York City area down in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. Also in 2020, for us here in Eastern New York and Western New England, Isaias led to actually quite a few power outages in Western New England, especially in Berkshire County and Litchfield County, due to very strong winds from Isaias in 2020. And then many of you probably remember Hurricane Irene, especially if you've been in this area for the past number of years. Irene left its mark on really the entire region with heavy rain and river flooding. Now, what made Irene especially impactful was it was on the heels of an already very wet summer and very wet year. So really, when Irene came, it just led to insult to injury, and that's why there was so much impacts from flooding after Irene. Going on to the next slide, okay. In terms of how the National Weather Service issues tropical storm watches, warnings, or hurricane watches and warnings, the policy has changed in recent years. So previously, the National Weather Service office in Albany was restricted that we could only issue tropical headlines. When we say tropical headlines, I mean tropical storm watches, warnings, hurricane watches and warnings. So we were restricted to issue tropical products really for Berkshire County and Litchfield County. However, a couple years ago, the policy changed. Now we can issue any kind of tropical headline as needed, pretty much the entire region of Eastern New York and Western New England. Now, way in which we issue that product is we have to collaborate with the National Hurricane Center and neighboring offices to decide, okay, will a tropical system that's coming up, say the East Coast, will that system retain its tropical characteristics? If we do think that it actually will maintain tropical characteristics and still be a true tropical system, meaning it did not transition to become what we call extratropical, it would still actually be a true tropical system, that's when we can issue tropical headlines. If we think, and again, in collaboration with the National Hurricane Center, that perhaps that system will undergo extratropical transitions, perhaps even interacting with a trough, a cold front, and not actually be what we call truly tropical. If that's the case, we will not issue any kind of tropical headlines, and instead we'll resort to issuing just wind headlines. And that's, again, just a wind advisory, high wind watch, high wind warning. That's not to diminish the impact. Certainly we've seen with other tropical systems, even if it's undergoing extratropical transition, we still can feel impacts from flooding, rain, and wind. Really, it's the wind. That's the fact that if it is or is not truly tropical, that's the deciding factor for what we issue to message wind. Flooding will be flooding no matter what. If it is truly tropical, flood watch. If it's undergoing tropical transition, still a flood watch. So really the wind is the one where we make that distinction of whether we're going to go with a tropical headline or just a good old-fashioned wind advisory or high wind warning. That's really the wind is where we decide the tropical or not tropical avenue. So again, if there is a tropical system that will be impacting the Northeast, including Eastern New York and Western New England, we do have the ability now in 2024 to issue tropical headlines as needed for any of our zones that we monitor. Here is an image from some images from remnants of Hurricane Ida from 2021. When Ida impacted the Northeast, it actually was not what we call a truly tropical system. It had transitioned to become extratropical at that point, but it interacted with the cold front, and that actually led to just very, very impressive and devastating rainfall amounts across New Jersey and the New York City area. There were quite a few fatalities as a result. You can see some of the rainfall amounts downstate, 7 to 9 inches. And a lot of this rain fell in a very short period of time. And that's why there was so much devastation. And actually, unfortunately, there were even a few fatalities, especially in the New York City area. You can see on the map that as you got further north towards the capital district here in Albany, the amounts did decrease quite a bit. So there was a very sharp south to north rainfall gradient with the remnants of Ida. But again, you can see from this, yes, technically it transitioned, but the impacts from the flooding rain were still very extreme and definitely still needed for the local emergency managers to know that, hey, yes, technically it's not truly tropical anymore, but the flooding rain would still lead to a lot of problems. So sometimes we really try to message it on more the impacts and not whether or not it truly is or is not tropical, because in the end, it really doesn't matter if it is or isn't. What really matters is, will you be seeing widespread flooding? Will there be wind impacts? It doesn't really matter what's causing it. It's really the what, the hazards and the impact that we want to message. So don't get too hung up on if something is or isn't named anymore. Really just focus on how much rain, how strong will the winds be, what kind of impacts will occur. That's really the message. And then again, from Ida, you can see that on the Esopus Creek in the Catskills, there was quite a bit of river flooding as a result. And then here's even some road washouts in East Fishkill because of the heavy rain. Here's Isaias. This storm happened in August 2020. This, again, it was undergoing extratropical transition. And actually what happens with sometimes as a storm is undergoing extratropical transition, the wind field can expand. And that's what happened with Isaias. As it's undergoing extratropical transition, the winds that occurred in the Taconics, Berkshire County, Litchfield County were very impressive. In some instances, the winds exceeded 50 miles an hour. So that's why there were quite a bit of power outages in Western New England because of the transitioning that was happening with Isaias. The wind field expanded, intensified, and that's why there was so much impact from winds. You'd actually see in the rainfall map, this was interesting, the path of Isaias actually went right up, right through our region. The center was almost right overhead. So because of that, you can see a clear distinction with the rainfall footprint. Areas on the east side of the Hudson River, you can see the rainfall amounts were actually rather low. As you got on the west side of the Hudson River, actually the rainfall amounts were notably higher. That is a classic signature of tropical systems. Usually on the west side of the center of the storm, that's more heavy rain. The east side of the system, or east side of the center, that typically has the strongest winds. That's a classic signal that we see with tropical systems. Here's the pictures from Irene. Again, this was a storm that many of us remember, especially if you've been here since 2011. Vermont especially was very hard hit with a ton of road washouts, river flooding, and impacts. Here's some pictures from jumping jacks in Scotia, New York on the Mohawk River. That area flooded. So really a lot of the region experienced just devastating flooding, both flash flood and river flooding. And again, that was because Irene not only brought copious amounts of rainfall, but it was on the heels of an already very, very wet year. So the soils were saturated, the rivers were swollen, couldn't really take any more rain. Then Irene came and just really led to a lot of mayhem and just very widespread devastation. This is a new graphic that actually a graduate student from SUNY Albany created. And actually it's interesting to show how the National Hurricane Center's outlook verifies following each season. So if you're not familiar, the National Hurricane Center does issue hurricane outlooks each year. Usually the outlooks come out in May. So this is actually the graphic here on the right shows the 2024 Atlantic hurricane season outlook. You can see that it is predicting a very active year. We have 85% chance for above normal amount of hurricanes that will be, or systems, I should say, tropical systems that will be named. So there's a higher confidence that we will have a higher than normal amount of storms that are named this year. Now, when I say named storms, anything that's tropical storm or stronger, so tropical storm or hurricane, those get a name. If it's only a tropical depression that's weaker than a tropical storm, that does not get a name. So that's how we distinct between named and not named. So for this year, the National Hurricane Center does have higher than normal confidence in a very active season. So this chart here on the left shows how their outlooks verified at the end of the hurricane season. So you can see the blue bars, that shows the number of named storms. Again, that's number of total tropical storms and hurricanes that the National Hurricane Center predicted at the beginning of the season. The yellow bar shows the number of hurricanes it was predicting, and then the red is the number of major hurricanes. Now, major hurricane category 3 or higher. So you can see this is its prediction, and then the stars correlate with what actually occurred, how many storms were actually named, how many storms reached hurricane status, how many storms were actually major hurricane. So you can see for last year, the National Hurricane Center Outlook actually did very well in terms of verifying correctly for the number of hurricanes and major hurricanes. But actually the number of named storms were more than what the National Hurricane Center called for at the beginning of the season. Now, in the age of satellite data, especially with the launch of GOES 16, we have such high resolution data over the Atlantic basin. We can see hurricanes and tropical storms and tropical cyclones forming more so than we ever did before. So because of that, oftentimes we will see that the number of named storms is a little higher than the prediction, just because we can see so much more. That is not to say that these storms all made landfall. They could have formed way out in the Atlantic in what we call a fish storm territory, meaning that they're not going to impact any land. But technically, because of satellite data and buoy data, we can interrogate these storms. We can send hurricane hunters into them, interrogate to see, is it actually a tropical system or not? Does it reach the criteria to be called a tropical storm or even a hurricane? So because of satellite data, we can see so much more, and it does lead to a lot of named storms, but again, not all of them actually even impact people. So that's something to keep in mind, that even if there are more named storms, that's not to say there's more landfalling storms that actually impact people. So just keep that in mind when looking at these verification charts. Okay, so now that we've talked about hurricanes and tropical systems, let's move on to how you as our SKYWARN spotters can report to the National Weather Service. Here is an example. Okay, say you're walking your dog around your block in your neighborhood, and you come across all these downed trees. You just had a thunderstorm that moved through. Maybe it was severely warned. You're walking your dog, and now you see all these downed trees at your neighbor's house. Oh gosh, let me call the National Weather Service. I want to let them know, hey, in my neighborhood, we had downed trees. So you look, you see, okay, what happened? Then you note the time that you saw the damage. Again, we realize you may not know when the trees actually fell, but make a note of when you actually witness and see the damage. And then also take a note of the address. The nearest road intersection is really what we want. Yes, you can give us your town name, that's fine. But if you can give us the road intersection, that's even better, because that helps us verify our severe thunderstorm warnings. So you make your observation, note the time, note your location, and then you contact us. Let us know, hey, I'm a trained weather spotter. I just witnessed downed trees. If you can, let us know the diameter of the tree branches. Was it a dead tree? Was it a live, large, healthy oak tree? What did you see? Was it just the branches that fell? Did the whole tree get uprooted? Let us know as much detail as you can. If you have pictures, that's even better. Also, let us know what time you observed the report. Again, we realize you may not know when the tree actually fell, but let us know when you saw it. And also, again, the nearest road intersection, that is what we really would be very helpful for us. Now, when you're reporting to us, let us know when you are seeing downed trees, large hail, and if you do see a tornado, of course, let us know about that too. When it comes to downed trees, again, how healthy was it? The diameter of any tree branches? Did the tree fall in all different directions? Say there was a multiple tree damage. Did the trees fall in all different directions? Was it all uniform direction? Was it completely uprooted? Did it get snapped? All that is good information. Again, pictures are even better if you can. When it comes to hail, let us know what size the hailstone is compared to coins. So if it's the size of a nickel, a dime, a quarter, let us know what it is compared to coins if you can. If you want to take a picture of your hailstone compared to a coin, that's even better. Try not to compare it to marbles, because that gets, for us, it's too confusing. We really don't. Marbles come in all shapes and sizes, not that helpful. So again, just let us know what your hailstone is compared to coins. If it is even larger and you can compare it to golf ball or baseball or ping pong size hail, again, let us know. The better information that you can share with us, the more helpful it is. When it comes to tornadoes, okay, we don't want you to be a storm chaser. Always take your safety into account. Safety is always number one. If you do witness a tornado, take shelter. Don't put your life in danger for the sake of trying to get us a report. If you see a tornado on the ground, get to a basement, and when you can and when it's safe, please let us know about it. So again, safety number one. If you see a wall cloud, let us know. If you're seeing mammatus clouds, let us know. All that is great information. Again, if you can take a picture and you're not sure what you're seeing, take a picture, let us know. We'll decide if it is or is not a tornado. And again, if there is a lot of damage following the event, let us know about that too. But again, report to us when it is safe. Flooding. Flooding is another one where we really would appreciate any reports you can send us. If you're seeing road closures because of flooded rainwater, say for example this picture down here, turn around, don't drown. Do not drive through flooded waters for the sake of getting us a report. If you're seeing cars submerged, if the water is maybe up to the tires of cars in a parking lot, take a picture, let us know. If it's an area that typically does see flooding and it's like, okay, this is just your traditional poor drainage flooding, may not need to report that to us. But if it's something unusual, that's where we want to know. If you're seeing a sinkhole, if a road is closed because of a sinkhole, like this picture here, let us know. Again, pictures are very helpful. When in doubt, if something is or is not helpful, take a picture, let us know, and we can judge if it's something that is unusual or commonplace for that area. And again, how can you report to us? Here's our phone number, 518-626-7569. You can email us, alb.stormreport. Also, we have a web-based form. If you go to our website, weather.gov/ALY, scroll down to where you see these little tiles, click on Submit Storm Report. That's the avenue where you can send us a web-based report. Also, Facebook, Twitter, follow us there. MPing, for those of you that have the app, MPing, we do look at that. And of course, our amateur radio friends, we very much appreciate all your efforts. If your coordinator sets up a net, that's a great way for us to kind of have a summary of all the reports that are coming in for amateur radio operators all over the region. So if you are sending us a web-based format, again, go to that tile that I mentioned in the previous slide, click Submit a Report. You'll get a Google form. Again, the website, weather.gov/AOY/report-WX is where you can go directly to get that Google form. So again, that goes right to our email, and it's very, very helpful for us. You might be asking yourself, okay, I'm submitting all this information to you about downed trees, flooding, hail. Why? Why am I doing this? So A, it helps our verification because, again, we issue all these warnings, and without you, our eyes and ears on the ground, we really have, sometimes it's hard for us to know what actually happened. We're not there, you are. And that's where we rely on you to let us know what you're observing. That's very, very important for us for verification. In addition, all of those reports get archived into what's called storm data. That is the official archive, and it actually helps local towns and counties to receive funding after disasters. So if there's enough damage that occurs, enough documentation of the damage, those regions can actually get funding to help with recovery efforts. So your data is very helpful for storm data, verification, and making sure that your local regions receive the funding it needs following devastation. CoCoRaHS. Okay, how you at home can be a CoCoRaHS observer, you as our SKYWARN spotters can be a CoCoRaHS observer. This is something that's near and dear to my heart. I love CoCoRaHS. I personally have been an observer since 2011. You do not need to be a meteorologist. You do not have to have any prior background or training. If you are just interested in the weather, this program is for you. All you have to do is go to the website, cocorahs.org. You can purchase a rain gauge from the website, weatheryourway.org. Purchase your rain gauge, set up in your backyard, like a picture here, and you can start reporting how much precipitation you receive every morning. So again, just purchase the rain gauge, set it up, and you're good to go. If you want to start also reporting snow, you can also buy what's called a snowboard, or you can make one. I made my own snowboard and set that up, and that way you can also report snow come the winter time. So what it does, you report your precipitation each morning or as frequently as you can. We understand you might have a life, you might have a job, you might not be able to do it every single day. Totally understand. You can report at your leisure. If you go away for a couple days and you want to submit when you get home, totally fine. There's a multi-day report option for you to do a report after you come back from being away. So again, we understand you may not be able to do it every single day. That's totally fine. Do it at your leisure. But again, the more reports you can send in, the better. So this is an example of a map that we were able to create as a result of all the CoCoRaHS observer data that we've received. And you actually, it's interesting, you can compare your report to neighboring reports. You can see how much rain that you receive compared to neighbors. So it's kind of fun to do it in that way. You can see if you were the winner, you fell right in line with other people, maybe you ended up with a little less rain. It's actually interesting to compare your data to neighboring locations too. So again, if you're interested in this, the more observers, the better. We especially need observers in the Adirondacks, Upper Hudson Valley, Southern Vermont, the Catskills, Schoharie County, parts of the Taconics. Those areas we really are in need of observers, Mohawk Valley. So if you are in those areas and you're interested in the program, please consider signing up. Again, it's kind of a citizen scientist effort. So it's really just a great way for you to give back to the community and helps meteorologists and hydrologists. That information does help us also with deciding if drought is ongoing in a certain area or if a certain area may be more susceptible to flooding. So again, on both extremes, drought and flooding, that data does help us with those evaluations. So again, cocorus.org, consider being an observer. We would love to have you. And that concludes this session of our SKYWARN training, part 6. We hope you enjoyed your video, and we hope you learned something about tropical systems, how to report to the National Weather Service, and COCORUS.